Ladies and gentlemen, 2 weeks ago, I was in Nigeria, where I traveled to Yupu Ode to bid my farewell to a friend, a mentor, and a great thinker, Professor Adebayo Adeniji, who passed away on April 25th, 2018, and was finally laid to rest in his hometown on 7th of July as, quote unquote, possessing a clear-eyed devotion for innovation. I agree with President Kenyatta. Calestous is a man whose tremendous impact on the African and global educational landscape is befitting of tonight's tribute. The Pan-African intellectual vanguard is mourning as a result of their loss. They are mourning the Pan-African vanguard, I think, for Pan-Africans. Are you not? Oh, very few, huh? So we are mourning. But we are comforted. But yesterday, 18 July 2018, was the centenary of our wise elder, celebrated Nelson Mandela, a man who embraced the diversity of ideas and worked tirelessly for an inclusive humanity. Calestous, Bio, and Joben are with Madiba in that rich pantheon, having done what is humanly possible for a better humanity. In his book, which can be described as one of the blueprints for Pan-Africanism, Africa Must Unite, Kwame Nkrumah dictates a whole chapter to the intellectual vanguard. In the chapter, he grounds his argument on the importance of intellectualism by stating that, I quote, the history of human achievement illustrates that when an awakened intellectuals emerges from a subject people, it becomes the vanguard of the struggle against alien. Nkrumah continues his argument by highlighting the importance of developing an African-based knowledge. African-based knowledge, I quote him, which must provide the educational and intellectual foundations of our Pan-African future. The hard work, dedication, and intellectual journey of Professor Juma embodies the concepts of the intellectual vanguard. He devoted his intelligence to unlock Africa's contribution to the fourth industrial revolution, dominated by innovation and technological advancement, by seeking to immerse Africa's policy options into the fourth industrial revolution. Calestous Juma represents the true vanguard. Every generation needs innovative scholars to act as gateways for ideas between the past, the present, and the future. These extraordinary thinkers are the harbingers of change, because without thinking about constant change, society cannot progress. Hence, change is the only constant. Without science, technology, and immersion in the fourth industrial revolution, Africa will lag behind the rest of the world. I have always emphasized that the fact that the only way Africa will attain its aspirations as outlined in AU Agenda 2063 is to make a quantum leap. Great thinkers, including Calestous, remain torchbearers, catalysts for that quantum leap in the transformation of Africa. Professor Calestous Juma ascended to the highest levels of academia, cementing his name in the annals of one of the foremost Ivy League schools, Harvard University, where he was the director of the school's Science, Technology, and Globalization project. But his passion for Kenya and African soil animated his transformational scholarship. He never let go of the thread that pulls together the Pan-Africanism that Comrade Yoma represents. That's the thread that pulls all of us who are true Africans, whether you are white or black, together. I had the pleasure to meet this great scholar for the last time during my visit to the United States in 2016, when I was invited to deliver a lecture at the Harvard Kennedy School. Professor Juma was the moderator of the event, and I had the pleasure to benefit from his incisive brain and bonded with him during the course of that morning. I did not know it at that time. And it was the last opportunity I had to experience the enthusiasm and warmth of Professor Juma, and that is the last time that I interact, because he used to communicate. In Africa, we have often been accused, fairly or unfairly, of not appreciating the percentages of this world, our scholars. Maybe it is due to the fact that many African scholars succumbed to the false belief that to be considered a great thinker and intellectual, one had to don a gown of Afro-pessimism. Thus, many African intellectuals become synonymous with the reactionary leanings and tendencies, causing a wedge to develop between the intellectual class and the ruling class. Furthermore, it could be argued that the glorious period of African independence, which saw the legendary feats of icons such as Kwame Nkrumah, Ahmed Sekou Touré, Julius Nyerere, Malemo, Gamal Abdel Nasser, Jomo Kenyatta, Patrice Lumumba, and others, was followed by a tumultuous period characterized by coups, coup d'etats, one-party states, and military strongmen who ruled without question. By the way, Namibians have a tendency to want to be arrested. You want to be martyrs. Journalists are hiding and they are hoping they will be arrested, so that the world can say Namibia is not free enough. South Africa, they say, only problem is we suffered too long, South Africa and Namibia. And freedom with God, we think it's absolute. The way we talk also is absolute. We don't know your freedom of speech ends, where my freedom also starts, whether I'm a president or not. And you, why do you think you'll not be invited to say? Oh, what did you say here? We don't waste time. Some journalists are thinking we are following them around. We have many other important things. speech. As the old man sitting there. What were we fighting for all these years? For free press, for democracy, freedom of movement. That's what we were fighting for. Now you want to do something and we are going to arrest you. Please, right. I think freedom of press is guaranteed, that's what I said. So please write. All it is we are saying is scholarly. That's all we are saying. Be objective and give us information we can learn something from. Not just gossiping. Okay. In this value, many scholars would dare to question the conditions of that time were considered enemies of the state, as he's trying to pretend and forced to flee the country. It's true. Some of them valued education. And they set up universities immediately after independence. They trained people, and these people, those scholars must be independent. Yes, Juma is saying. And then you maybe learned from those days that they will be arrested. So many of them, therefore, I think, left what we regard as brain drain. However, as we have seen through the endeavors of outstanding intellectuals such as Calestous Juma, Adebayo, Adedeti, and others, it is actually a brain game for Africa. To have these scholars to go now and do their work seriously as scholars and still know the Africans. In that sense, it's a brain game. Many of our foremost intellectuals who went abroad to study the leading universities of the world returned their wealth of knowledge to disseminate to fellow Africans and to spearhead policy formulation and improve governance on the continent. Madame Pando, you are among this distinguished group and are part of the brain circulation. When I now, you see, we used to say, when Africans were running to Europe, they said, oh, I didn't brain drain. Now, as I said, when you are there and you gain knowledge and experience and you feedback, that's now the brain game. But when I use the fellow African within Africa, that is now brain circulation. So you are one of them. Many of our institutions, including the African Union, have and continue to benefit from the incredible insights of our scholars. The emergence of the new Africa we want is a result of the endless sweat and perseverance of our erudite African thinkers, of whom Calestous Juma is a distinguished member. Before his passing, Professor Juma was working on a paper entitled Science and Technology Advice to African Residents. That paper was already introduced, analyzed by Professor. It was not complete. So we thought we'd have this lecture. There's some of the scholars like Professor here, Professor there, and that, improve on it. And look at it. Because at my office, I have only 5 advisors. 5. Both were already there. They are here. You understand that? You can see who you are. Stand up. It's transparency. Now, these are people who are advising, and you see the quality of work. Quality of work that comes from the office. You need advisors who are not doing justice to the founding father and then not giving them proper scholars to advise them. I thought I would do the advice. So, advisor, good ones will deliver unnecessary. But paper is going to be discussed by Professor here. I say we are going to improve on it. In this modern era of leadership, one must choose suitable people who possess the requisite knowledge to assist the policy making process. It is why we are gathered here today to pay tribute to a brother from Kenya who understood that the only way Africa could remain competitive in the global landscape is through the pursuit of science, technology, and innovation. One cannot complete a tribute to Professor Calestous Juma without talking about his greatest passion, science and technology. As earlier alluded to, another scholar, practitioner, Honorable Areti Pondo, will give us a lecture on public policy advice on science and technology. However, I wish to briefly highlight the importance of science and technology in the context of our developmental objectives. Former Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, said, and I quote, "One of the most effective channels of eradicating poverty, creating wealth, and enhancing competitiveness is through the acquisition, adaptation, and application of relevant technologies." The new Africa we want is still faced with several deficits with regard to its socio-economic architecture. Issues such as poverty, income inequality, and unemployment continue to trouble the minds of politicians and academics alike. There is a need for greater productivity within our various economic sectors to catapult us to sustain levels of global economic competitiveness. To achieve a rise in productivity levels, it is pertinent that we improve managerial practices, bring about organizational change, utilize science, technology, and innovation in the production of goods and services. By increasing investments in information and communication technology, we will improve the quality of capital and labor through enhancing the skills of workers within African economies. There is also a need for greater emphasis on research and development. And you are right, my brother, we are very poor there. But we also need the researchers, proper ones, so we can spend money on them. Not to spend money on people who are just trying to please somebody else. So, yes, research and development and other knowledge-based investments to sustain our economic levels are very necessary. We must spend money on research if you want to move forward. Given this reality, it is crucial that we not only honor this intellectual giant through heartfelt tributes at his memorial lecture and beyond, but that we assume the responsibility to advance the extraordinary work he left behind. We should pick up the baton where he left off and continue the race towards a future of innovation, embracing Professor Juma's unwavering wishes. One of the greatest minds in the history of humanity, Albert Einstein, once said, and I quote, "Intellectual growth should commence at birth and cease only at death." I am cautious not to disagree with this great mind, but I believe that Professor Calestous Juma's intellectual growth, which commenced at his birth near the shores of Lake Victoria in Busia, Kenya, did not cease with his death in Boston, USA. His legacy will live on. The ideas of his mind will continue to echo behind the confines of this final resting place. Will ensure that the academic passion and zeal of this distinguished son of Africa will continue to enlighten students, and policymakers as we endeavor to propel our continent towards scientific and technological excellence and innovation. God bless his soul.